Welcome to the DGD podcast. As you can see, the Chain Gang is out, which means one thing, folks. Got a commitment from Amarius Mims and Gabe Harris over the weekend. Well, actually, today was Mims. But, anyways, welcome to the DGD podcast. Joined by Mike and the Green Soldier and Mr. Juan Daniels.
What's going on, man? Sorry I'm late.
Not much. We are in to talk about how it is a bad day to be a Knoll. So we're gonna do some Knoll trolling real fast, guys. Woo! This morning was interesting to say the least. If you listen to Twitter Spaces, if you are not familiar with Twitter Spaces, get familiar with Twitter Spaces because FSU Twitter Space was what's the word, Mike? Would you say toxic? Would you say entertaining? All of the above?
Let's just say all the above, man. It was
Yeah.
it was something else, man. It was
There's also this thing called G Day we're going to talk about too, but right now we're just doing some Knoll trolling. Juan, I don't know if you're familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with what happened. Obviously, the Mims recommitment to Georgia, withdrawing his name from the transfer portal. But yeah, so over the weekend, as soon as the news broke that he had entered the portal, right? To give a backstory here, immediately takes a visit down to Tallahassee. From that point, there was an article written from War Chant. It's Knoll's, I want to say rival site or whatever, basically saying that they got him, completely got him, right? It's done. Turns out that is not the case. As you can see this morning, he is staying with Georgia. And boy, was the Twitter Spaces fun. That's all I'm going to say. Just listening in, being a fly on the wall, I'm telling you right now, boys and girls, it was absolutely hysterical. Mike, Green Soldier, what do y'all think about that Twitter Space? How do y'all feel about that?
I think it's a lot of finger pointing and finger waving. And one of the big moments for me to realize the separation between Georgia and everyone else is there's a major concern from them that they didn't raise enough money. And one of the proprietors who's actually helping them gather money into an NIL prospect fund didn't reach their goal. And one of the first things they started saying is the fans should apologize to this guy for not meeting that threshold. And to me, if the crux of the argument is the NIL was going to make or break this, you weren't really in the running to begin with, because you have to think the fight you have is simple. Georgia has 3 first-round tackles in its first 6 years under Kirby Smart, has several second, third, and fourth rounders at the offensive line position in total. And you have to upsell that. And that's with Kirby actually recommending that he talk to Atkins down at Florida State for the prospect of making Mims a better player. And on the back half, and the positive message, it is ultimately the player's choice. And I think where Georgia, again, has a massive advantage is Coach Smart is going to be openly honest and recommending what he would do if the transfer portal was the final decision of that player. Whereas a lot of these other places are just selling promises.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you, like, for me, I legitimately thought that there was, a 0% chance here, right? Just knowing a little bit about the Mims situation, right? Wanting to play at time, but also keeping that reservation of, the motto of it's not always greener on the other side, pun intended, right, Scott? Anyways, but as you see things transpire, and now you see, Georgia reclaim, if you will, Amarius Mims. Mike, what does that mean? What's your takeaway for, what does that mean for Georgia moving forward, getting Mims back? As we cannot hear Mike. Mike want to check the mic himself.
gotcha. So the biggest thing with having Mims back was that we had issues of what we have coming up next. I mean, the plan was like if Broderick goes down or if McClendon goes down, who's going to be the guy behind him. And as we saw on G Day, we saw Ernest Green start one of the positions at freshman, and that's something that I don't think that Georgia really wanted. So with having Mims back, that leaves Ernest Green to go into this year just going through his progressions, taking it slow, and looking at next year to start. So that's just the best plan Georgia can look at now of seeing recruits as, okay, we have this spot for the next 2 years minimum. Now we have to worry about, not instead of us having to worry about 3 or 4 possible tackles, we could probably go down to 2 or 3 tackles getting recruited this year.
I'm with you here. Juan, I want to get your thoughts on this from your perspective. Keeping Amarius Mims in the fold along the offensive line, what does that do for Georgia in your eyes?
I mean, basically, again, it just gives us depth at the offensive line, and it it's more of a fight now. And what that does is it should energize the offensive line and those guys that basically said, Mims, you were in the transfer portal, you're looking to get out, you're looking to do something. Now you're going to really have to earn your way back in there. And that person that was having to step up because Mims was leaving, they should be, going above and beyond to try to make sure he does not have a spot or he's going to be the backup. So I think the competition is going to be a lot better.
I'm with that too. I'll tell you right now. At first, I thought Mims was leaving due to playing time and things like that. So with him coming back, I think there's a possibility that you could see him slide into left guard. Listen, if it's a playing time thing, play guard and slide out slide out next year. And the reason why I say that is if you look at Bama, they've taken several offensive linemen and shown them the willingness to move inside and then relocate back outside at the tackle spot while getting to be a first-round pick. You're about to see it right now with Evan Neal, Alex Leatherwood, right? There's several examples based off of just Alabama alone. Mims is super athletic. This is not it's unreal how athletic this guy is to be his size. You slide inside, you're going to dominate, absolutely dominate those 3 techs, period. Just period, based off your athleticism alone. It would fit into, what I would assume Stacey Searles wants us offensive line to do, what Todd Monken's scheme offensively would fit into, right? And you also look at, the situation with us having to try to figure out that spot at left guard, assuming that right guard comes in once, Tate Ratledge, once he's healthy, that becomes his, right? So in my opinion, I think there's a chance to prove that you could play inside, move outside next year, and you're still going to play. You're still going to be a first-round pick, right? Because, you want to be a first-round pick, which is my assumption here. That's why I thought he was leaving, right? You want to get on the field. Come back, you sit there, and you play guard. You fill in that left guard spot. Your offensive line at that point would become concrete, right? Obviously bearing injury, but nonetheless, that becomes one of the most dominant offensive lines in the country, right? And then you sit there and add on to the fact that with all the weapons that we've got, that makes an offense extremely dangerous, which we're about to transition into perfect time with G-Day, right? G-Day Saturday. I want to say the attendance was 68,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. That was the official number, 68,000 and some change.
There you go. The Green Soldier coming through with the stats. First off, we'll go Mike, Scott, Juan, and myself. Main takeaway. What is your main takeaway from G-Day Saturday?
Mike, hey, Mike, what you feeling on, bud?
Okay, I didn't even want me to start. My biggest thing was seeing who would solidify that middle linebacker position. Like the inside linebacker is just the number one thing that we were trying. Like we had 3 dudes that left to go go into the draft. Now who's going to step up? I mean, we saw Tresman Marshall and we saw JDJ Dumas Johnson, and that they were, of course. I mean, everybody's going to talk about how they couldn't guard Milton or McIntosh. I mean, doing a rollout. Let's be honest here. Like nobody's going to catch those dudes. But as far as them protecting that middle and making sure that if a linebacker, if a wide receiver or a tight end went up that middle, they were going to get hit, or if Stenson Bennett made a mistake, he was going to notice it, and that's what they did.
Green, we'll turn it over to you, my man. What was your main takeaway from Saturday?
Tight end and receiver play. I think the tight ends absolutely crushed it, especially with the separation of talent that you had Stetson dealing with a walk-on and Oscar Delp on the red team, absolutely getting better as the day went on. You can see a lot of the talent and a lot of what he is we saw in Brock Bowers, which is just exciting to no degree. And one of the great comeback stories for Reed Gilbert to me that makes me happy is understanding that his mental health has gotten in a place where he feels comfortable to practice at the elite level Georgia is asking of him, to work out, to do all the right things. And he was rewarded with an absolutely studly game, causing 2 PIs in critical downs, 2 touchdowns, fighting for a throwaway ball that Stetson threw and still catching it. I just think he really showcased a lot of talent, especially with coming back. He's going to get faster, guys. He's going to get lighter and leaner. So just get ready because the summer is going to be really good to Mr. Gilbert. The defensive growth, I think, was incredible. As the game went on, the defense got better and better and better, especially for the red team, which is what you want to see. With how much we were airing it out, I genuinely believe Coach Smart, Coach McGee sat down and said, all right, Kendall, all right, K-Mac, we know what you guys are. We're going to air it out a lot. You're still going to get a few zone reads here to keep you fresh and honest, but you could tell the game plan going into it was to air it out. And the quarterbacks have gotten better as a whole. I know people look at Stetson's stat line, but really Bryce Young's the best quarterback in the game, and he threw no touchdowns and 1 interception in the spring game. Stat lines for spring games are, kind of non-starters in my opinion. Beck is an elite downfield passer. He missed some easy throws, which you could see why he's got to get a little more polished. But from year 1 to year 2 to what will be year 3, I think Beck is going to be pushing Stetson week 4 and on for sure. That's my take.
There you go, guys. Juan, what would you say? What your main takeaway from G-Day?
Just explosive offense. For me, I'm an offensive guy, but to see Beck throw the ball down the field on his first drive, to see them getting balls, in the red zone, being aggressive in the red zone to Reed Gilbert, and then trying to get the ball to Mitchell. And they did a lot of throwing the ball out of the backfield and all of that kind of good stuff. I thought was absolutely great. The other thing is how well the line, the one's line did against the one's defensive line, and giving Stetson Bennett enough time to throw. And even though Beck was going against the twos, he did look pretty good in certain situations. Again, there was a couple of swing passes or passes out of the backfield that he did miss. And again, yes, he does have to get more polished on that. Oscar Delp, just played awesome. And just think, this guy technically should still be in high school. So for him to come out and do what he did, I thought was great. So the offensive production missing a lot of key guys, to me, was something that I loved seeing. And just like they were, basically saying, is that you're going to have to score more points this year. You're not going to have that elite defense that's losing, 7-8 guys. You're not going to have those guys. So you're going to have to score more points. And from what I saw, based off of weapons being on both sides, the red and the black team, you put those together, you condense those together, Georgia's going to have a dynamic offensive team. And they're going to be doing things the likes of the Alabamas and the LSUs, of recent, if Monken decides to open it up that way.
I think my takeaway from this is one thing. It's pretty simple. The future is bright. That's all I'm going to say. Whether it be offense or defense, the future is bright. Obviously, Mama Delp made her call, and it stuck true, right? She said that was going to be the player of the game, and there was an argument for him to be player of the game, right? Let's be honest. I did not expect that kind of performance, even though I should have. I didn't expect that soon. So that right there shows me that the future is promising. It also would not surprise me if at one point during the season we see a 14 personnel, period. And I don't know if any single other team in the country would have the ability to do so. But honestly, Georgia could do that and still be efficient. That is just, it's asinine just to think that, but it's possible, right? And then on defense, I'll tell you right now, everybody looks at Ringo as a bona fide starter, and that's fine. Kamari Lassiter doesn't play, and that's understandable, right? This was a banged up football team. We kind of knew this coming in. Try to avoid the injuries and things like that. I'm just saying this right now. Nyland Green had himself a day, in my opinion. Look at safeties. You look at Malachi, different things like this. Guys flying across. I know they're new. I know they're young, but you didn't see any hesitation. They just went and ran at it 100%. And typically with new guys, Juan, you know this. There's a little bit of hesitation. And to me, I didn't see that. They were still willing to play man coverage, which you saw in the pass interference calls, things like that. That's okay, especially when they're young and they're learning, right? You're learning the feel of the SEC and the next level for that matter. But Patrick over here takes another comment for me. Receivers out there looking like Juan Daniels, give me that ball, right? Let's be honest. I love the fact that we had so many receivers get touches. Like, obviously, when you throw the ball 70-plus times, right? That's important because that I want to see diversification of who gets the ball, right? And it wasn't even just the receivers you had back. You had Kendall Milton on a 32-yard bomb from Stetson, I think it was. I want to say it was like 60-yard bomb to Arian Smith on the first drive for
yes, it was.
the black team or the red team. I mean, like, it was just beautiful. But I'm telling you right now, if you're a Georgia fan, take away from this right here. Stetson Bennett is your starter, and that's okay. It's okay. Just because you saw Beck light it up, listen, that's what I'm saying. We are in good hands. It is a perfect problem to have. But Stetson Bennett will be your starting quarterback. And understand that as so long as Carson Beck is in there, you still have an elite playmaker right behind Stetson Bennett. And I'm telling you right now, next year, Stetson, when he goes, Carson Beck is going to have his hands full. Because if we were to get Arch Manning, then you've got a real quarterback competition on your hands with Carson. Carson and Brock. Like, Brock looked really well too. So, the quarterback situation, everybody wants to sit there and get all pissed off about Stetson being the starter, and especially looking at, that 60-yard bomb from Beck to start the game. Listen, don't fool yourself. Stetson's still the guy. This is simple enough.
Absolutely. And it's tons of experience that Stetson brings back, and we know what we have when the live rounds start firing, so to speak, in the season. Stetson, for all his silly mistakes, makes some incredible throws. His mobility alone adds another X factor into it we haven't seen from a quarterback under Kirby Smart until Stetson came in. And it's an embarrassment of riches. I think the quarterback room and UGA fans need to get on the same page and understand it's only good. If Stetson's not good enough, Beck will be. If Beck's not, you go to the younger talent. It's one of those positive things that I've seen turned into a negative thing for the sake of the grass is greener on the other side. And while I like JT Daniels, I would openly say this. I know Juan's played an elite level. I've played some football. I know other people in the chat probably have too. Availability is a measure that a coach must take into account. When you have 7 games in 2 seasons and 4 injuries across that, have no fault to the player, you have to take that into consideration when Stetson possibly played with a broken thumb all of 2020. So it's just a measure of, okay, would I rather have that B play? Is the connection back?
Yes, sir.
All right. So last thing, would you rather have a guy who's a B- to B level quarterback play all 30 games, hopefully in 2 seasons, or would you rather have one that can play 7 at the next level passing wise? And again, this is the harsh reality of the elite college football team. You're going to have great players that don't get to play right away, but iron sharpens iron. Juan made a great point talking about, okay, Mims coming back in the fold is going to create an internal competition, which only makes everyone surrounding it better.
I'm with that. I really am because I saw growth in places where we needed it the most. Right? You look at that. I wouldn't say the entirety of the defense, but definitely your linebackers and your secondary, and I saw growth there, and that's really important, right? Because right now there's some questions that we're still going to go into the summer not knowing, and we'll probably won't know until September 3rd, and maybe even after that. Right? Who's going to be the actual starter? Who's going to be the clear, cold cut? Who is going to be the guy? Right? Nyland Green shows his promise. Listen, I know Don Blaylock. I know I would have loved to see this out of you, but throwing that bomb, it gets picked off. Listen, that was a perfect interception, high point in the ball. That's what you want to see, especially from a head coach. Your cornerback going up, high point in the ball. That's where receiver or DB, right? Making an excellent pick, right? Causing havoc, right? You look at the D line, notorious TID, right? Coming in wreaking havoc with Jalen Carter, right? That's another one you want to keep an eye out for. Everybody's talking about Jalen Carter, and rightfully so. Keep in mind you've got guys like Zion Lowe and notorious TID, as I call them. You still got those guys, and you've also got some freshmen, guys. You've got freshmen that hadn't even got here yet. Looking at guys like Marvin Jones Jr., stud. Um, looking at Michael Williams and Christian Miller, stud, right? The future is bright. I started off with that. I'm gonna finish that way. The future is bright in Athens. Period. Now, Mike, I do have a question. I might be the only one that did not attend G Day.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get your feel. Obviously, with Georgia coming off the national title, what was the environment like in your perspective? What was it like?
Oh man, it was crazy, man. It was fun. People were you just saw people ready to see what's next up. I mean, there were like where I was sitting at, people always talk like people behind me were talking about these upcoming players that are showing up. They were talking about specifically like guys like you talk about like Dalen Everett being like people don't understand what Dalen Everett. Yes, he did get picked on a little bit there, but the quarterbacks had to make some very tough throws. I mean, those were some crazy throws that they had to get to. You had to have true QB to wide receiver knowledge for them to make those throws. I mean, he was not even. I mean, a step, maybe a half a step away from the DB, and that it just had to be a perfect throw like that. Like that's the reason why I think Everett will be a big name to remember. But going back to the environment, people were crazy. People were screaming. They were just ready to do this again, run it back in 2023. That's basically how it goes.
Juan, you went to G Day, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
What
I
was
was I was planning on it, but did not. I was not able to make it.
All righty then. Well, Mr. Green, I know you attended.
Yes,
What
sir.
was the environment like firsthand there?
Extremely competitive, positive, but business-like. A lot of people were hoping to see Brock Vandegrift, Beck. Of course, that was the big narrative, is the quarterback battle. I think the first opening series for both quarterbacks, Stetson and Beck, was incredible. I think Stetson absolutely dialed up some amazing throws, the wheel route to K-Mac, Beck's throw to Arian Smith. And I think people realized the tone of Georgia football when they saw it live and in color. Especially you have white jerseys, guys who aren't supposed to be in the rough and tumble part of it, and they're still getting popped. And that's kind of the competitive nature that is the baseline of Georgia football. And going to the defensive backs, here's the context, guys. We're so good that Chris Smith rotated in and out, probably 40, 50% of the reps. Then you have Ty Smith, former All-American from West Virginia, who's not playing. Kamari Lassiter is held out. And you have guys like Dirty Dan Jackson over there that are playing their little butt off, flying around, making plays on your starting quarterback who, for all his faults, is a pretty darn good thrower to the outside. And so we're in such a good position overall, and people who don't know the names of these players will soon be acquainted because everybody from first to second to third competed in a way I have not seen overall in the spring game ever. because normally it's been hit and miss. You can tell really who's taking it serious and who's not. And this time it seemed like everyone was on the same page and everyone knew they were competing for playing time starting a fall camp.
Juan, I'm assuming you watched Saturday. I know you said you didn't make it in person. What was your main, takeaway to moving forward into summer with G Day?
Just the competition part. I mean, seriously, there was crazy competition. People are going above and beyond to step up to replace the guys that are leaving, and they're fighting to be that starter. They're fighting to be a part of something to go for a back-to-back. And I know that there's been issues or people talk about, Stetson Bennett, but look at the guy who was calling the game, Greg McElroy. I mean, he won a championship at Bama, and he was not, this dynamic, super duper crazy quarterback. And I think this day and age, people don't really understand the art of football if that's all you want to do is play Big 12 football where you're scoring 60, 70 points and it's 65 to whatever. There is a great strategy that Kirby's using that he's brought from Nick Saban and the Saban era of playing great defense. Let's play great offense. Let's not turn the ball over. Let's use our weapons and let's be very, very smart about how we're doing things. And now that the group has bought in, you can really see these guys fighting. And also too, you're the defending national champs. Your game is going to be on TV. You want to go above and beyond to make a name for yourself like Gilbert did. Gilbert went out there and he showed who he is and who he has the potential to be. And if I'm a defensive coordinator, if I'm Dan Lanning from Oregon, I'm thinking to myself, I was already kind of had a package for the Brock Bowers and the other guys, but good freaking grief. What am I going to do with this guy? And then, of course, you look, these guys defensively. How am I going to go against these guys who are, they gave it their all in that spring game. And that was great to see.
I was sitting there watching it, and one of my takeaways here is the offensive scheming that Todd Monken has at his disposal is going to be downright lethal for any defensive coordinator that we go against. Down in the red zone, when Arik Gilbert was out wide, and you had the bunch formation on the opposite side, that right there is a nightmare scenario, depending on the personnel that Georgia runs out there. Because if you give me a Ladd McConkey in the middle of that bunch, and you put a Brock Bowers with an A.D. Mitchell out there, I'm telling you right now, the problems that will pose is downright petrifying, just absolutely scary based off of the potential. And, looking at the efficiency in the red zone, things like that, there's some Oregon fans that I was listening to on Twitter, and they were saying that they had tuned in. There's some of them that think there's a little bit less confidence there, and rightfully so, unfortunately. I want that game to be good, but I'm telling you right now, once Georgia returns back to full health, it's over. It's almost one of these things where if you come out and you sit there and watch your scripted plays, your scripted job, that's one situation. But Juan, if you know this, after the script, it's just pure talent and athletes, right? Making plays. Georgia's got way too many to sit there and game plan against. You can't do it. I'm not saying you can't do it because I'm sure Alabama will to some degree. But for what it's worth, it's going to be downright impossible to sit there and cover every single one of them because you're going to have a mismatch at any position, whoever you try to go for. Arik Gilbert's too fast for a linebacker, right? Brock Bowers the same way. It's just insane. With that being said, let's talk about the scholarship situation, right? We talked about Mims committing back to Georgia, right? Everybody knows you got 85 is the limit, right?
Correct.
So I want to say we stand right around 88 or so, I think.
88, 89.
80 to
It could be
89.
closer. It's closer to 90 than it is what we need. So
Yeah. With that being said, right, expect some more attrition, right? Or some maneuvering, right? Juan, you probably know this being a part of Georgia's team at one point. You might see guys take a walk-on, but actually don't have to worry about that. But, you can see some guys pop off those full scholarships, right, to help cut here as well. But don't underestimate don't underestimate, I should say, wow, don't underestimate the potential for more attrition to come after this, right? Because listen, Georgia is going to sit there and go hit the portal to find those instant impact players, especially you look at guys in the edge position, you could take a safety, different things like this to try to get Georgia back into the playoffs and back in the national title hunt. So there's a lot of moving still to go on. So don't get all comfortable and things like that because you're going to expect it. Some guys are going to leave. It's just a matter of who. Mike, Scott, I'd like to see if what y'all have thoughts on in regards to the scholarship spots that Georgia's currently sitting at.
So going back with Scott was saying, I think to my belief, I think it's around 90 with Mims coming back. I think that did make it 90 in my opinion. But I just don't know who's going. I mean, like say, I know you're talking about like the walk on option, but I just really don't see that for a lot of these guys. I mean, in my opinion, to what I saw on Saturday was that a lot of these guys could possibly start for a different team. I mean, maybe not of course, not the SEC due to the April time frame, but other D1 schools, or if they want to take an option, D2 schools would definitely take a look at a lot of these dudes if they honestly couldn't wait. But I mean, just thinking about that opinion of that, I just don't know who would leave Georgia after seeing G Day. Like they have to reduce it down to 5, they have to reduce it down to 6 to hit the portal. And it's just going to be a tough one to figure out who would that be. I think we may have maybe 2 shockers, in my opinion.
Right. What do you think, sir?
I think that of the 5, possibly 4, I think 2 of them will go other places because they'll be older guys that have been rotational pieces, have been fighting for playing time. Amir Speed was a good example. I think he paid his dues and wanted to go play. And best of luck to him. I think he's earned every bit of that. But I think we could see 2 of those. Do have the option again. This is back in 2009 and 10, so this may be old hat. But you could take a full academic ride and turn it into a full athletic ride into a full academic based on hope. If a player qualifies for hope, everything is paid for. So there still can be that bump down of, hey, listen, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're not on an athletic scholarship anymore. But I do agree with Michael. Some of the attrition will be to go play because while developing at Georgia is better than 95% of the other teams out there, they still want to play. And that's ultimately the goal. Regardless if they think they're NFL bound or not, they actually want to develop utilizing the field. And Tanel, I'm actually going to get with you on that. I'm going to look at the roster real quick while these other gentlemen are talking and hopefully get you a few names that I think could be possibles.
I'm just thinking as well.
Me personally, I don't really want to name drop anybody. If I have to do that, Tanil, I'll give you positions and let you make your own assumptions from here. If I'm looking at it, right, I think you might, I hate to say this, you might see a receiver leave. I think, and I'm not saying nothing bad, right? It's a good situation for Georgia to have, but there's so much talent there, that you're not going to be able to sit there and put all of those guys on the field, right? You just hope that you don't want to sound bad about it either, but take a guy that, that shows the capability to make plays, wish him the best and let him go somewhere. And succeed, right? Like you said, Green said, Amir Speed was a good example. So you look at these situations right here. I think you could see a receiver, maybe even 2, depending on how you view things. I would like not to see an offensive lineman, probably a guard, go, but who knows? You might see a D lineman, even though I really don't want to see that either. A D lineman might bounce. But like Mike said, there's always that one potential for that 1 or 2 shockers, right? So honestly, I don't know. I'm not going to name drop anybody. I just gave you my positions that you might expect to see, hit the portal. But obviously, once Georgia gets that 85 number situated, listen, expect it to go a little bit below, so that way they can have the potential to add as well. And listen, When it comes to the portal, Kirby has shown over the years since he's been Georgia's head coach, he's not just going to go pick somebody from Blue Mountain State to come in and sit the bench. He's going to go grab All-American players, instant impact players, and get them ready to go. You look at DK, you look at Tyke outside of the injury, right, coming in. When he entered the portal, Tyke was a freshman All-American. He was an impact guy. Obviously, you can't predict the injuries, but you get the point, right? Kirby's going to go after these impact players that he knows he can sit there and provide an instant boost. As teams start to wind down, you've got several spring games this weekend. Once the spring practices are settled, expect a ton of movement. This is about to get hot. The portal's about to get ridiculous. Okay,
Right.
So Kirby's waiting for this, right? And obviously, we don't want to see those spots in a situation where guys have to leave. But when you're in the state of being where Georgia is, this is business now. It's just business. So you like I said, I don't like to see guys leave. I don't know if anybody else here agrees. But at the end of the day, I think even the players understand it's a business now, right? They're going to if they get told to go somewhere else, or however it is, if they decide to leave, listen, they're going to go and be successful, right? They're given another opportunity to go out and prove themselves, right? Latavius Brady's going to have a good year for Arkansas.
Absolutely.
All right, like you look at these guys.
Jermaine Johnson at Florida State.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson was a perfect example. Jermaine Johnson was at the time, guys, he was sixth in the rotation last year, going to be?
Sixth or fifth, yeah, he was.
Fifth or sixth, and then goes and becomes a defensive player of the year in the ACC. And guaranteed first-round pick. Watch. Just saying. He's going to be a first-round pick. Just saying.
Right. And I think the smart move, Robert, is to do what you did, which is pick positional groups and say this is who we think in terms of overall. I doubt an offensive lineman goes just because we are so thin there and everybody knows it's a play away. I think they saw Tate last year and realized, hey, that's a third snap into a top 5 team we're playing in week 1. And now I got to be ready to go. And the shuffle happened immediately, making, guards play tackles, tackles come in. I mean, Broderick Jones in the national championship game, perfect example of being ready. And really, by all intents and purposes, the man beat the second or first best college football player in the fourth quarter. So I would say, ultimately, I trust this coaching staff enough to know the ins and outs of the team so well. They already have names that they have on a sheet of paper or a chart and say, okay, these are the guys that are talking, that are looking seriously into entering the portal. Let's talk to all of them and make sure they leave. Because the one thing, again, I cannot emphasize enough that Georgia is elite at is not burning bridges, barring being banned from the team or voted off for whatever reason. This team does an amazing job, and the staff does an amazing job of making sure players feel comfortable once they enter the portal. I guarantee you Brini will not sit and bash UGA because he decided to go to Arkansas. And I guarantee you the staff will not bash Brini because he decided to go there. Yeah. It is a very friendly system.
And Green, you're exactly right. Yet have I heard since Kirby Smart has been here, any situation where any former Georgia player or any Georgia staff has said anything bad about each other. You just don't see it, right?
Correct.
You can't say that for other programs. You just can't. Look at the Riley situation over in Oklahoma to USC. Listen, there's some bad blood there still. The players just like it. I'm telling you, LSU, Notre Dame, there's some rivalry coming there, and it's building from the Brian Kelly situation. Listen, that right there is a perfect example of burning bridges, and Georgia is not that situation. Georgia will not do that. Kirby Smart won't allow that situation to happen. And they're even when things happen to players, whether they're dismissed from the team or Athens Clark County's finest arrest somebody, right? Kirby's going to handle it in the most professional way. Keep things on the hush hush. Shit doesn't need to get private. Like, it needs to stay private. Handle it behind closed doors. That's what I love about Georgia's program. And now, Juan, I want to ask you a question about the scholarship spots. You've played on this situation. Looking at where Georgia is now, right? Do you expect people, how do you see them getting it down? Do you see them having to sit there and tell you, hey, look, sorry, but go here and do and succeed? Or what are your thoughts on the situation?
Well, if I'm going to look at a positional group that I would look at, I probably would say tight end. We're very tight end rich. But it really just depends. So if you've got a guy that is diehard, brought up UGA for life, and they think, hey, you know what, I may not get the playing time, but I'm going to stick it out. Those are going to be the guys that are, are going to stay. They're Georgia no matter what. It's going to be your guys that are looking to say, yeah, I want my chance in the spotlight. Here's what's going to make it a little bit easier is going to be, number one, Georgia just came off of a national championship. So, and as a college football player, that is the ultimate top thing, is to be on a national championship, to be able to sport that ring. So now a lot of these players that want to go and get more playing time, guess what? They're going to be able to go to the Arkansas or the Kentuckys and say, hey, listen, I was just as good as such and such. I didn't get my opportunity. So, I've got, I was on a national championship team. I was the second guy, third guy, or I was rotating in with, this person or that person. I can make a huge difference for your football team. Now, if Georgia was still, or they were right there at the cusp of winning their first national championship, so you look at your Jordan Davises and those guys who decided, you know what, I think that we're going to get the ultimate trophy in college football. I'm coming back. If they didn't feel like that, or if they didn't think that they had a chance, they probably would have gone and, gone off to the NFL. So for most of these guys, we've won our rings. Most of the, just like the Alabamas of the world, we've got our rings. We've got the ultimate goal. Now let's go and try to get to the next level. So I think that's just kind of where you have to look at it for most of these guys. I think getting down to that scholarship to the 85 is going to be pretty easy because of that.
That's an interesting take. I didn't even think about it, guys. I really didn't. Hey, Juan, thanks for that different insight right there. That's
Actually, let me say something real quick, sir, because I'm looking at somewhat of the scholarship distribution now. With Clay Webb, Condon leaving, and with Mims coming back, we're looking at 19 offensive linemen on scholarship. I don't think we can keep 19 guys on scholarship, in my opinion. So I think
you probably would see a guard or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, because listen, one of the things, then we'll transition. I want to talk about Gabe Harris and the commitment here in just a second, but I do want to bring this up. You look at the logjam, in my opinion, at the guard position. Guys get recruited as tackles, get immediately thrown inside to guard, right? And honestly, I would like to see guys, honest, true evaluation. Tackles stay at tackles, guard come in and guard go immediately there, right? We look at high school tackles. Right, and Brooks Austin perfectly described this. You look at guys that when you look at the tape, you're like, yep, that's going to be a guard, right? That's a true tackle. Like Amarius Mims, prime example. That's a true tackle, super athletic, everything like that. A lot of these guys need to come in. We have so many guards that, like Mike said, it wouldn't surprise me to see one or two go, right? Because right now you're fighting for. I want to say you've probably got 7 or 8 guys trying to fight for 2 spots. So it would not surprise me to see a guard or 2 go. But listen, they're gonna go somewhere and they're going to play. And like Juan said, Georgia just came off the national title. Apparently, you're good enough to win a title with them. You're going to play. I would expect, right? You have a very good opportunity to go in somewhere and compete for playing time immediately. But with that being said, we're going to talk about Gabriel Harris, right? Committed Sunday. To Georgia, 6'4", 240, listed as an edge rusher out of Valdosta, right? I don't think you're looking at a top 100 player. I'm excited for this pickup, right? I'm excited, right? Because that's that prototypical edge rusher that you're looking for Coach Uzo to take and find that right niche for him, right? The plan, the strategy to succeed when it comes to pass rush. I am absolutely ecstatic that this guy committed, especially over the weekend. Cannot wait to see this kid between the hedges. Scott, Green, Mike, Juan, what are y'all's thoughts on this commitment?
I think it's a bad week to be a Florida State fan, first off and foremost, to kind of add more salt to the wound. But you're 100% right. I'll go ahead and give you guys his 24/7, and then I'll let Mike go. 91 national ranking. He is the 9th edge and the 8th player in the state of Georgia. In the national rankings, he is 192nd in aggregate, meaning all the top 100, top 300 rankings, the 23rd edge, and 18th or 23rd player overall, and 18th player in the state of Georgia. So massive get. We're going more of a prototypical speed slash edge guy. Perfect example. A little bit bigger than Adam Anderson, but a little thicker too.
Again, going back to what he said. So like the Nolan Smith, the MJ Sherman, which was hurt, the Chambliss of the world, the 6'2", 6'1", 235 guys, Georgia seemed to be moving away from. Now they're looking at 6'4", 6'5", 250, 245, 240 dudes. Now, imagine those dudes who can run what we ran at the combine, running 4.4, 4.5s at the edge position. Like, I would give, like, those quarterbacks will not be able to go around our D line because one of the edges will catch you. Like, that is it. Like, they do not want to go outside those lines. It's just not what Georgia's trying to do is they're trying to make sure that your quarterback stays in the pocket. And if your quarterback stays in the pocket, that means we're going to have a Nakobe Dean or Tresman Marshall, JDJ coming up the middle and it's going to sack you. But you would not leave the pocket.
Mr. Daniels, what say you about this recent commitment?
So Scott gave all of the 24/7 stats, and they're great. But what you really have to understand, what Scott gave was the stats. If you know anything about Georgia football, Georgia high school football, Valdosta plays Lowndes County, who has been nationally ranked. They play the Lee counties of the world, who has played in state championships and won like 2 or 3 state championships. They play Florida schools. They play Colquitt County. They play some of the biggest and best football and are the biggest and best teams in the state of Georgia. So for him to have stats like that, for him to be touted like he is unbelievable playing against the teams that he plays against. So it is a huge get. It is an absolute enormous get. And just like you were saying earlier about keeping those quarterbacks in the pocket, you take a Jefferson from Arkansas and keep him in the pocket and keep him from scrambling. Or you take the quarterback from Florida, I can't think of his name right now, number 5, and you keep him bottled up in the pocket, and then you let the Nakobe Deans of the world be able to drop back in coverage or come blitz, or you let that defensive line come in there and just absolutely just destroy that inside. I mean, that's trouble. So that was an unbelievable pick. And like Scott said, it's a terrible time to be a Nole right now.
When you turn on the tape, this kid is downright scary. How fast he gets after it, setting the edge. And that's in high school.
Against elite competition.
Yeah.
Juan's 100% right. Just to give you guys context, in the last decade, Valdosta has been named Titletown USA several times over, not just for one high school, but the whole aggregate, the average of every high school is elite down there. So for him to be ranked against top-tier competition like that, and all his numbers are great, it speaks to him being ready more so than the average top recruit. He's already played against those guys going to Georgia, Bama, Florida, go down the line. So that's a really good point to consider, guys.
And also too, I would say this. So like he was like say he was ranked 8th overall in Georgia. So if you look at the top 10 in Georgia, they already got the commits of Bo Hewley, which is a beast offensive tackle, Marcus Washington, which is a beast cornerback. Those are all top 10 dudes. And then they're still in the fights for Justice Haynes, a dominant running back out of Georgia. And they still are fighting for Caleb Downs, Madden Sinker, and these are just dudes that will just like we want to make sure that we lock down Georgia, and we're going to put in a fight for wherever teams are coming in our way.
listen, I'm not trying to bash this state, but it's not like the top 8. It's not like a top 10 in the state of North Dakota. Okay, Georgia high school football is some of the best in the country, and to be 8th in the country or in the state for that matter, huge get at this point. All right, it's just gonna leave it there. With that being said, all right, we've talked about Gabe Harris. Listen, as spring practice is wrapped up, right, you're looking at transitioning into the summer. Summer's known for hot days. Georgia football is about to get spicy. It's about to get hot. Cannot wait for this. Right, there's a lot to come. Listen, y'all know this. When it comes to recruiting, Georgia is a closing team. So right now, when you look, it had been a minute, right? It had been a hot minute for that matter since Georgia had a commitment, right? So it felt like. So obviously, you get a little bit of water to quench the thirst, right? In terms of the recruitment aspect of things, the recruitment side of things. Listen, it's about to get really hot come spring or come summer into the fall with all these visits coming in right before senior season start. People like to commit. Listen, it's about to get interesting if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan. And not only that, you still got the football side of things too. You got battles playing out. You've got the season starting in September. Listen, every single day, you don't even think about it, but you get one day closer to the start of the season. And as we get ready, I can't wait for this. Because I'm telling you right now, there's about to be some Delp in Atlanta, and the Dog's about to feast on that. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. With that being said, though, have a great rest of your day. Mike, Green, Juan, as always, it was a pleasure, gentlemen. With that being said, have a great day, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe, follow, and go Dogs.
Go
Go
Dogs.
Dogs.